It's a great idea, getting an official artist to paint this year's British Olympic team from sketches as they were actually competing. But now the artist concerned, Max Denison Pender, has said he's had to quit this post. Why? Because the British government has given its support for the Russian team to compete in the Paris Olympics this year. Now, why does he feel so strongly? Well, Mr. Denison Pender is here with me in the studio. Very good to see you.
Thank you very much.
I think I can probably tell why you disagree, because I can see a Ukrainian badge on your lapel.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, sir. I have spent just under a month in Ukraine painting the soldiers. This is obviously following 2020, the Olympics. I've been doing and documenting sports for a very long time. Something about what you do as an artist, you have to be very inspired. And sports I absolutely love, but there was nothing that took me more than the power and the sort of might and this David and Goliath story and this bravery that the Ukrainians represented. And so I went to go and paint them, and I spent three weeks and a good long stress painting them and getting to know them. And we had sausages, and we had pickles, and we chatted about life. And when you're there and shells are dropping, you develop a very strong bond.
So how close to the front line were you? What kind of action were you actually observing as an artist?
This was 2 kilometres away from the front. And
so pretty close.
Pretty close, and the thuds were coming in. This is for me to paint and get to know my subjects, and it might sound crazy to some people, but it's not too far from exactly what John Singer Sargent did back in World War One, and it's for what an artist has to do.
And Nevinson and so many more. A lot of artists.
Many.
Yeah.
It's seeing your subject. You know, you have to see it. If you're going to be honest about how to depict it, you have to go and see it for yourself.
And you got to know these guys pretty quickly.
Very much. There was a small story of a guy called Slavic. Charming bloke. He had a family of 3 young kids, and a wife. He said, "Hey, Max, my friends are about to go to the front line this evening. Could you do a portrait of them before they go?" I said, "Of course I will." So I did them a portrait. He then said, "Thanks so much," and gave me a hat. This had shrapnel marks in the top. A few months earlier, he'd only got skimmed by shrapnel and merely survived, and was kind enough to give it to me as a present. And he said he really wanted to be painted one day, and sadly, shortly after that, he died, and he never got a chance to sit.
So these are people that you feel you represent, you've got inside you. And the reason that you won't do the Olympics job is that the Russian team, they're not competing under the Russian flag or the Russian banner, but they are competing there, and you think that's unacceptable.
Yeah, so I've been feeling deeply about this for a long time. It's hard to know where I stood. Essentially, competing under a neutral flag is, in my mind, like a just slap a different sticker on the package, you know. And I know how my friends feel. We've been collaborating for a long time. I managed to raise £30,000 for tourniquets, and that's a tourniquet goes towards a life. You know, that's a life saved, and that for me was very important. For them, it was very important, and I will be doing work. And next time I see them, I want to look them in the eye and say, "Slava Ukraine, I'm here for you." And how can I say that if I understand that I have this, what I see as a responsibility to show support, and I don't?
Yeah. So do you think that, as things stand, Putin will use Russians competing in the Paris Olympics as a kind of propaganda?
Yeah, I very much believe so. I think that them having just a part in the party, an invitation to come along, having seen the atrocities they do, and on a side note, there's even an example in March in 2022, there was a gymnast who was, even though it was nothing to do with the neutral flag at the time, that wasn't in the conversation, he had a Z on his chest as he received the bronze medal. And I'm not saying that could happen, but all I do know is that, for better or for worse, Putin will lead. He is leading Russia. It's Putin's Russia at the moment, and by having Putin as their leader, Putin will take advantage, for better or for worse, of the fact they represent Russia, even though it's under a neutral flag, and use it for bad propaganda to spread to the rest of their country, proving that the world accepts them.
Well, Max, I draw myself, I paint myself. Really? I believe in drawing. I think there should be more drawing everywhere, but I have to say, I think you're doing exactly the right thing. So well done and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very, very much for coming in and talking to LBC. Much appreciated.
No, my pleasure.
Right.